What is up, Bitcoiners? Welcome to another Build a Mind podcast. I am your host, Trevor Bello, and today I have an exciting episode. I'm joined by SatstackinPleb, also known as Mark Werline. SatStackin is on X. He's always posting about what he's doing, all of his really cool projects that he's got going on. He's got some solar projects. He's got like the StealthMiner project, lots of really cool stuff. And we're going to kind of dive into his story today. But, a little background on Mark. He's also, like I said, also known as SatStackinPleb. He brings a wealth of hands-on technical experience stemming from his 9 years in the Marine Corps as an electro-optical technician for advanced military systems, and he did 5 years with Lockheed Martin maintaining HIMARS systems in various high-stakes environments. Since leaving Lockheed in 2018 to pursue a life beyond that kind of employment, Mark has worked as an industrial commerce while plotting an ambitious exit from his 9 to 5. His journey took a new direction in 22 when he discovered Bitcoin mining, leading him to develop Structure.io, that structure with a 3 at the end, not an E, just so you know. His innovative approach birthed the StealthMiner design, a compact, efficient mining rig with a unique perpendicular heat extraction. Now available in various assembly options for mining enthusiasts, Mark's vision for Structure is just beginning, with an aim to empower DIY miners and enthusiasts with cutting-edge solutions. So we're going to kind of dive into the StealthMiner. We're going to dive into the heat reuse applications that he's been using the StealthMiner for, and kind of like the journey of Mark going from 7 active tours of duty to civilian life, and what that's been like for him. And then there's also some cool stories we can talk about too, as along the lines of like his bus that he's building with some solar panels that he's going to use to power some miners. But it's conversations like this that get me amped up, because I'm just like, man, I love talking with Bitcoiners. I love talking with normal everyday people who have experienced life from like the very extremes to like the very mundane. And so we have a really good mix of that today, and I'm really excited to get into it. Before we get into it, I've got something for you guys. I just want to show you real quick.
Join the Mastermind Club, a weekly gathering of Bitcoin miners sharing insights to help you optimize or build your mining business. Our community fosters open discussion and collaboration, connecting you with experts who can help you overcome challenges and find solutions faster. Every other week, we host the Mastermind Deep Dive, where industry leaders delve into the financial, operational, and optimization hurdles faced by miners like you. Brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World.
All right. What is up, Mark? Welcome to the Build a Mind podcast.
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, man. Like, I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. When you reached out on X, I was like, man, I gotta get this guy on the show. We gotta talk about the StealthMiner. And then, you sent me your bio over email, and I was like, oh man, there is so much more than meets the eye to Mark over here. So, we're gonna kind of dive into that. I'd love to get your story. Kind of, the broad strokes. Maybe we could even dive into as much as you want to tell us. But you did 7 active tours of duty. You were an electro-optical engineer working on HIMARS systems and just tracking for. I guess I'm messing it up. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what you did in the military?
Yeah, sure.
No,
no worries. You're good. I fuck it up sometimes. So electro-optics ordnance technician, the easiest way to illustrate that is any target acquisition system that mounts to a munition in the Marine Corps arsenal is what our MOS, or our job, covered down on. So that includes everything from day optics to thermal to standard night vision to missile guidance systems, if they're hooked up to a missile system used, such as the HIMARS or the TOW, or now Sabre system with the infantry. But yeah, it's a broad MOS. We work alongside the armors, and we handle all the target acquisition, and it comes with it's electro-optical. So that's where that name comes from for the job.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm sure that, the electro-optical understanding of computers and technology really plays a key role into your experience as a Bitcoin miner. like kind of what is like, before we really dive too far down the rabbit hole of your story, like how has the experience been mining Bitcoin so far? Are you excited about it? You looking towards the future, pretty happy about it, or?
I fucking love it, man.
Man,
Okay,
awesome.
so it's unlocked a a series of interest for me, because the solar, uh, the mining came before the solar. It just happens to align, those incentives. But I absolutely love this subject matter. I absolutely love this community. It's all the nerds I want to know in real life, right? But now I
Yeah.
finally have that, that direct line to enjoy a niche subject with a bunch of like-minded individuals.
Yeah, that's always the best thing, whether it's a community online or a community in person. When you've got a community of people that you can all kind of nerd out on the same things, and maybe like you know a little bit of this thing over here and somebody else knows something else like in this aspect. It's like you can all just kind of nerd out together and help each other out and help each other build. And that's one thing that I love about the Bitcoin community and the Bitcoin mining community as well. These plebs out here working day and night to build something for themselves. It's like they're like little puzzle pieces, and we all fit together in some perfect, symbiotic way.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Because there's not a single person that can cover down on the entire topic of Bitcoin.
Oh no.
I don't. There's just no way. It's too intensive. There's too many sub rabbit holes that go deep and even branch off from there. So yeah, I love how you have everyone circled around the same interest, objective, mission, goal in life, yet from so many different backgrounds and specializing in their area of Bitcoin, which is what's so goddamn special. Yeah, you nailed it. Yep, it is. It's
100%. It is really special. And like Bitcoin allows us to do this because it encompasses so much. Yeah, it's a new monetary technology, but it's also electrical infrastructure. It's also bolstering energy grids, but it's also like there's so many different thing rabbit holes, as you said, you can dive down. You could go the thermal engineering route, you can go like the energy efficiency route, you could go the just product building route, like kind of how you've gone down. You can go down the solar route or the home heat route, whatever way you want to do it. And what's fun about that is when you don't know something, like taken from me when I was building my home heat hash rate heater, I didn't know how to design one of these systems and make it efficient. And so what did I do? I reached out on X and found somebody who knew what they were doing, and they were more than happy to kind of walk me through what I needed to do and to make it happen. So there's always someone out there that knows a little more than you about the subject that you're trying to learn about, and they're always willing, especially in this community, like they're always willing to help you out.
yeah. I am constantly amazed by the generosity of this community because we are all building towards the same end goal for the most part, anyways. But yeah, the generosity is just in the acceptance and the just the community of it has just blown me away and continues to still to this day, and I'm sure will continue to.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I 100% believe it, man. There's more people coming into Bitcoin every single day, especially with the price pumping right now. More people are coming in, and it's like these Bitcoiners that have been here for, 10 plus years or even, 4 years. It's like they're all just excited to talk about what they're working on. Like
Right?
you in particular. It's like, "Hey Mark, will you come on my podcast and talk about what you're building?" And you're like, "Yeah, absolutely. When do you want to do it?" So it's one of those things. Let's kind of just dive back into your history a little bit. So you were in the Marine Corps in 2004, which was a very, very hectic time to be deployed. So I can only imagine the hellhole and the hellish like lifestyle that you were living in when you were overseas. Kind of explain, as much as you're willing to explain to us about that experience and how that kind of led into you finding Bitcoin. I think you said you found it in 2013, and then like that experience from
First ignored it.
2013. Yeah, exactly. So go ahead and tell the audience, just what that story was like.
Sure, yeah. So, me joining the Marine Corps wasn't necessarily like a call to duty. I saw towers fall. I need to go defend my nation kind of thing. It was a very personal thing. At that point in time in my life, I needed some discipline. That's the bottom line. And was told that the Marine Corps is, that's the branch, right? They're the hardest ass motherfuckers. So naturally, and I think this just applies all the time. I go for it, right? And it did. It really changed my life, turned it around entirely, and helped me to develop into my adulthood as a more aggressive person that can achieve goals that he sets his mind to. But the Marine Corps, 2004 is when I was active duty. Got out of boot camp March of that year and was on a boat going overseas July of that year. So it was a very, very quick introduction to the life, right? Because spend 3 months in boot camp from December '03 to March, and then hit the fleet, go to a grunt unit, and hopping immediately on a boat to go on a MEU that ended up in Baghdad for the first time in that year. But the Marine Corps, the experiences I gained have definitely set me up for where I'm at today. No doubt about it. Especially the sharpening the perseverance and forging the ability to just do it, right? Just do the next step. Doesn't matter how hard it is. Just fucking do it. So it coming into the Marine Corps during that time frame was very interesting because of that, right? I'm being thrown right into the lifestyle right away. I'm hitting the overseas experiences right away, and the first couple of years were just back to back for me. Jumping from one infantry unit to another infantry unit out there on Camp Pendleton, seeking out another deployment immediately because young and crazy, I guess. I don't know. Didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I knew that that's how I made more money, right?
Yeah.
Go on deployment, you get paid a little bit more. So yeah, fuck it, let me go on deployments. Sit me out there. I just did this one. It was cool. All right, let's go again. But it wasn't until the sergeant years, about 5 years in, is when I really picked up the ability to lead, run a shop, and sharpened a lot of my electrical and technical skills were, what's it called when you have a knack for something, right? It's, I had that ability, or that aptitude is the word I'm looking for. And, that they give you a test when you enter in, you take it, and, if they find out how stupid you are, where you're good. Are you good at mechanics? Are you good at electronics? Are you good at reasoning? What is it? What kind of job are we going to put you in the military? Well, that test, I basically just was given the opportunity. Said, with the score you got, go ahead and just pick any job you want. No idea what I wanted to do. I almost became an artilleryman, which was I'm so glad that didn't happen. But I had a dear friend at the time who was in, say, no, you don't want to do that. Too smart for that. You need to go back, talk to the recruiter. And that's when I went back and started looking at everything. And electro-optical technician, no idea what this is. I have no idea. But I was told you get to work with weapons and it's techie. Awesome, sign me up, right? So that's how I landed in it, is just based on a random selection, but it happened to be the perfect fit for my aptitude, right? Which is really bizarre. But
And the military gets some things right. It sounds like they gave you a test, an aptitude test, and they were like, "Hey, man, like you're really good at this electrical optical stuff, man. I don't know what the fuck that is. Well, you're good at it, so
all right,
dive down that journey."
I wanted Intel because it sounded cool, but they didn't have any slots for Intel at the time. So thankfully, because this has set me up for where I'm at now, and I wouldn't change the thing.
For sure. So let's kind of explain to the audience what what was that catalyst that kind of, because you got out of active military duty, but then you kind of went into work for Lockheed Martin in the same area of expertise. Instead of like
Same.
working with it, you were working on them. So you were still being sent out, still being deployed, but you weren't active military, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and I can backtrack a little bit on that because it's when in my sergeant years, is when I went to this new unit. Um, After back-to-back deployments, I had chosen a unit to go to that doesn't deploy, and got absolutely bored there. So I wanted to get back to, the deploying fleet and work on the stuff again. And the Marine Corps is being filled at a brand new weapon system, the HIMARS. That's about 2007 when the Marine Corps bought their first HIMARS. And I had the opportunity, based on people I'd worked previously with who were running that shop over there, to call them up on the phone and say, I want to come back. I'm re-enlisting. Really, all I want to do is I want to come to this unit and check out this gear. And that was the HIMARS. So I was the maintenance chief there for 4 years and got very, very acquainted with the weapon system, obviously, right? It's my job. I should know what's going on with it. But as the maintenance chief on a contracted weapon system, it's a little bit different because I wasn't necessarily ordering parts and fixing everything like I was in my previous positions. At this job, we had these engineers that were on deck with us in the office across the hall, and that work for Lockheed Martin, because they don't send those launchers out without an engineer attached to them to support. It's contractual. It's how it all works, right?
Yeah.
So I had 4 years of running this shop, developing standard operating protocols and guidance letters on how to run the maintenance in the Marine Corps for this new weapon system. A lot of cool groundbreaking shit I got exposed to. I would now realize as I'm saying this out loud. But when I was, and it was actually a joke one day, right? Because I was real cool with all the FSRs, the field support representatives, or the field engineers. And I would go in the hall, bullshit with them all the time, And I went in there one day pissed, just fucking irritated with the situation that I was dealing with in the Marine Corps that day. I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna come work for you guys. You guys got it made over here. And that joke real quickly turned into, well, we're standing up extra units and the Marine Corps is getting more launchers. We need more field engineers. So that was completely fortuitous. But only because I had established that skill set over those 4 years. That relationship, that skill set became, knowledgeable on the weapon system, enough so that they were willing to hire me on and say, yep, the rest of this you can train on the job to repair it. So that's how that transition happened. I did 2 last active duty deployments with that unit, HIMARS, but the very last one was, the one where I sat with the FSR the entire time and just got my rough training in. And, then I took the leap, right? When we came back from that deployment, it was the end of 2017. And I will say this, right? Morally, I started not enjoying what I was a part of. As I saw more of it, you see behind the curtain. Bitcoiners know this, right? Because Bitcoin is peering behind the curtain of the fiat system, right? It gives you that direct lens to see the fuckery. So once you peer behind that, things change real quickly. But at the end of my 4, we're talking about how I jumped over and I just jumped straight ahead, but it real quickly turned into a joke one day. A joke just turned into, actually, we could use you. And I took the leap. I said, okay, I will not re-enlist, and I will I'll take the chance, come interview. And then 30 days after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was back in the same exact, maintenance building just across the hall in civilian attire. So my transition was not the standard military to civilian transition, so it wasn't difficult for me. It was actually awesome because I got to go back and do all the cool shit and not have to get up and work out in the morning and listen to, Staff Sergeant whoever the fuck.
Yeah, for sure. So you're working for Lockheed Martin from 2013 to 2017. When did you start thinking about Bitcoin? It sounded like you said yesterday you had a lot of time on your hands at points, so you were able to kind of just dive down that. So it kind of, map that out for us.
Sure. Yeah. So my first engineer deployment was in 2013. I got out of the Marine Corps at the end of 2012, and by summer of that year, I was on my first deployment in support of a deploying unit and going with those launchers. Well, the thing is, if my equipment is working, I don't have a job. That's what I'm there for. I'm there to fix this immediately, get it back operational, and out doing what it needs to do. Other than standard preventative maintenance and other job duties, there wasn't a whole lot to do if my equipment was working. So a lot of time on a computer, and it was, so we're in 2013, and that's that it was a price pump year, and that's how it came on my radar, right? One of my tech blogs, TechCrunch, I don't even remember who it was, but I saw an article about it. Bitcoin breaks $1,000. I'm like, what? Hold on, wait. Why? What is this? So it did a brief flyby, really. Like looked it up. Okay, it's an internet coin, but for some reason it's starting to catch on. It's a great investment. Maybe I should look at this. And I didn't go very far at that moment in time, no further than creating a wallet and then having a real tough time trying to figure out how to put Bitcoin in the damn thing. How do I get Bitcoin? I didn't know. And it was one of those flybys, right?
Yeah.
That was basically it of it. Trust me, I went back and checked that wallet later. And there's nothing in it. I was just making sure I didn't remember incorrectly or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have donated other wallets to the general cause. Bit 39, fucking. Yeah.
Hey, we've all been through it. It's almost just like going down the shitcoin journey too. We've all donated some sats to the cause.
Yes, exactly. That's why I think some of the numbers we're hearing may be grossly underestimated.
Oh, 100%.
Right. But so 2013 was just a flyby, right? And that's all that was at that moment in time. And when I saw news of it a few months later, few $100s, I'm like, holy shit, okay, dodge that bullet. Right. Yeah. Dodge that bullet. But coincidentally, in 2017, I'm on my last contractor deployment, and it was, I want to say February is one of my first smash buys with Bitcoin, in 2013 or 17, and I just I did what everybody does, right? What's the next better Bitcoin? It's 2017. It's ICO craze. Ant shares is going to change the world. Chinese Ethereum. You got this file system that's on a blockchain. It was all so magical to me, and the distraction happened. Absolutely. Luckily for me, I never threw too much at all of the other stuff, but definitely was trying to play the game as I saw it at the moment in time, or as my knowledge took me. And
it's difficult, man, because you were on Coinbase, and I mean Coinbase from the very beginning, it seems like they were just like, they've always been a shit coin exchange, like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And you hear stories even today of people like getting onboarded to Bitcoin. They buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and then they go buy all these other like weird altcoin project tokens, and then like 3 days later that coin or token is no longer even on the exchange because Coinbase has unlisted it. So they've lost however much money they put into it. So like I'm astounded by the fact that Coinbase can even still be a profitable business at this point.
Yeah.
They
won't be for long. Let's hope, right? Yeah, 100%. I mean, because we know they're fractioning. fractionalizing
yeah.
that for sure.
Yeah. And I see it a lot, to kind of harken back to my Bitcoin story. I was doing the shitcoinery thing too, but I wasn't putting my own money into it. Coinbase, they'll do like we'll give you $3 of this coin if you do this little quiz thing. I think I racked up like 40 or $50 on it. And one thing that, like, when I was personally going through my journey, it was I was reading a lot of like Warren Buffett. I was doing a lot of like trying to learn how investing works, and they talk a lot about how like you shouldn't invest in anything that you don't understand. And so I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna take that to heart. So like I started learning about Bitcoin, and I started trying to understand the actual fundamentals of the Bitcoin network. And in all honesty, like, it was difficult to start to understand it, but it was a lot easier to understand Bitcoin than it was to understand Solana and Ethereum and even some of the stocks that I had bought, because I wasn't going to read a 14-page 10K on, what the fundamentals of the business were. I wasn't going to do that.
Absolutely
So
not. Yeah.
I completely got out of that. And once I realized that like Bitcoin is like this ecosystem that I can understand the fundamentals of, it was like, well, I'm selling all these stupid Ethereum shitcoin altcoins. I don't even know, like ALQ or whatever it was.
I got a story for that.
No, go ahead. Tell your story, brother.
You just reminded me of something I did when I was, we'll flash forward real quick to 2020 just so I can like get this out there. But I had Ethereum in 2021, I think it was. I still had some Ethereum on Coinbase, and I had, well, you stake it to Ethereum 2 or whatever it was at the time. And and you couldn't pull that money out. And this was at the moment when I was going full on fucking maxi, right? So what I did, they offered, hey, sell your wrapped ETH2 for Bitcoin or whatever. So I immediately dumped it as soon as I could. So I don't know how that works. They lost money on it for sure. On that single transaction, they're raking in money from everyone else. But it was a nice little like, yeah, fuck you. Yeah, because I have this ETH2 that's wrapped up that I can't touch because of whatever, But oh wait, Bitcoin, they are going to offer me to sell my stake ETH2 for wrapped Bitcoin, which I can then later sell for actual sats and then pull them down to my address. Gonna do that. So I did that. So I got away with a little bit from them, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, I think I still have like $30 of wrapped ETH that I can't move it. Like I'm pretty sure I have to buy like all like gas fees or something. And I'm like, I'm not giving you guys any more fucking money to do this. Like, fuck you.
Bro, if you would have called me in 2017, I would have promised you that Ant Shares Neo is going to change the world, right? Like, there's always the next best thing, and that's why when Saylor came out and dubbed there is no second best, 100%. That's a meme right there. That one, I think more people now coming into the space have it way better than we did trudging through some of those earlier waters. Because there's much better knowledge and information and spokespersons,
Dude, I would be honest. So I came in the class of 22. Okay. I learned about Bitcoin in 22. When I started learning about Bitcoin, dude, there was all kinds of podcasts out. There's the Sailor series with What is Money. There was Bitcoin Audible. There's, Bitcoin Fundamentals from Preston Pish. Like, there's all these different like avenues that you can start driving down. Dude, Preston is the shit. I fucking love that guy. But back in 2013, you were talking about how like you kind of like did this flyby trying to understand what Bitcoin is, and it's like, bro, like you can't even figure out how to get you're an optical electrician in the military and you can't figure out how to get Bitcoin into a wallet back in 2013. What kind of pre-existing information do you fucking need to buy Bitcoin in 2013? Legit. I can't even imagine it, let alone like setting up. Dude, I know people who set up Like they were mining Bitcoin on their CPUs back in 2011, and they took that money and bought a Lamborghini and shit. I'm like, how the fuck? So we've definitely transpired to like this whole new epoch of Bitcoin, where it's a lot easier for people who are being onboarded to learn about it, understand it, hold it, self custody it, like all that kind of stuff. I honestly literally just got a Start9 setup, just got it figured out, just got my Lightning node running. I've been telling myself for the last year and a half, bro, you need to get a Lightning node, you need to get a node set up, you need to do this shit. And I finally did it, like literally yesterday. Got the Bitcoin core like all downloaded on the Start9, got the Lightning node running. I still got to figure out how to connect my wallet to it. I still got a bunch of things to do. The rabbit hole continues to fucking go down, like it never ends ever.
No, there, just like there's no fucking top to the price, there's no bottom to the rabbit hole, I think.
Yeah, and there's millions of little forks that you can go down, It's like,
Dude,
it's absolutely insane what you can learn. We talked about it, we kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast, but there's so many different things that you can learn when it comes to Bitcoin. You're going to find your niche, and you're going to find that thing that kind of gets your blood pumping.
Yes.
So speaking of getting blood pumping, actually, before we do that, I kind of wanted to ask you, I didn't ask you this yesterday, and I figured it'd be good to ask you on the show. What was your wife's reaction to this? You coming into civilian life, you're coming back home, you guys bought a house, what was her reaction when you're like, babe, like there's this thing, it's Bitcoin, right? And then you start mansplaining it to her. What was that like?
All right. So she first, I tell her everything. So she knew about the investments in 2017. So I'm talking to her. I'm like, look, got this dude. And, when you, just like everyone, we don't understand it, you don't understand it. And you're like, I don't know. I honestly can't have too much of an opinion because I don't understand. I think that was her stance on the beginning. I know she was like, if you're confident, do you, because that's how she's always been. She's always supported every, yes, dude, she's my absolute rock, heart, and soul. But yeah, she's always supported what I do. But it's when it was 2020, man. A lot of things changed in 2020, right? Yeah. It's after we had moved. I got out of Lockheed Martin in 2017 and took this e-commerce job back home on the East Coast, and continuing to pursue the American dream. I thought I was, right. I upgraded to a much bigger house because I could. We got the nice cars. But we really quickly, started realizing together that this is not our dream. We do not like this. We bought too much house for ourselves anyways, but that's part of that was a financial play, because everyone tells you gotta own property. If you want to hold and preserve your wealth, you need to have stocks, you need to own property, you need property. So, when I moved here at the change of the job, and a house was a little bit out of our reach, I was like, I'll grow into the mortgage, right? No, not when 80% of the monetary supply was churned out in a matter of 18 months, right? Exactly. So, I never grew into that mortgage, but we together at about 2020, 2 years after having renovated the home and being in it, and then realizing the grind we locked ourselves into, the 9-to-5 grind. Like, she runs her own business, and she runs a salon, owns and operates a salon, and I've got my 9-to-5, and we are always working to pay for this, right? Yeah. This is the same time frame, right? That's the same time frame when Saylor jumped on the scene and started announcing that his company is going to, they're going to go on the standard, they're going to hold a treasury, and, they're all about it. And that's when I went from an investment to full maximalist. I need to devote a percent of my income every week to this, or else
start dollar cost averaging every week.
But in that, and during that 2020 timeframe, when we were, starting to look at FIRE, right? The financial independence, retire early stuff, because we were starting to look at how old we are, what are we paying for, and how are we gonna retire, right? How are we going to secure our financial future? And that's when I got real deep, real deep, and started reading the books, watching the YouTubes, and she was there beside me. Not understanding a lot of stuff on the first pass, me neither. I mean, right?
Right.
Nobody understands. But she's always been like right here with me, supporting whatever I do, and just and she had lots of questions. I would answer them, or I'd say, I don't fucking know. I need to find out. That's a good question.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she bought the dip at 64 a couple
Oh
weeks ago
shit.
and told me afterwards. I was like,
Oh shit,
I'm so
dude,
fucking
that's
proud,
an
right?
accomplishment right there.
Yes, dude.
That is an
Yeah.
accomplishment. Nah, first and foremost, congratulations to you both. That is the mark of a good relationship, a good marriage. Like my
Agreed.
wife is my rock, heart, and soul as well. She doesn't understand Bitcoin to the extent that I would like her to, but I'm also thinking to myself, like, bro, I'm barely 3 years into this. I've got a lot more to go before she starts buying the dip in that aspect. But at the end of the day, like, plenty of people have asked her, like, are you okay with him doing this Bitcoin thing? Because I'm very vocal about my role in Bitcoin, and
I
she
think we
goes,
all are.
well, we're evangelists, man. Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
we
But
have to be.
one thing that I'm super appreciative of my wife, like, for real, is that at the end of the day, she always goes, I can't be upset with him because he's been able to do all of these things. Bitcoin has played a huge role in that. She might get a little annoyed with the amount of times that I talk about Bitcoin, but she's been there to support me the entire time. She's always been like, you do your thing. As long as it doesn't set us back, like, you do your thing. And so I've always been like of the mind, like, okay, well, like, I can put away $75 every 2 weeks. That's not a whole lot of money, but over
Right.
time, what's the coolest thing about it, and this is what I've been trying to explain to, like, my friends and my homies and my family, is like, that $75 that I've been putting away every 2 weeks for the last 3 years is like, it has substantially grown to a lot more than what I originally thought it would be. And that's why my wife is like, I can't say anything. My car broke
Yeah.
down at the beginning of 2023 or 2024. It broke down, blew a head gasket, and I'm a mechanical guy, so I can fix stuff. But it's 2024. Parts are not cheap. I mean, the head gasket on my car was $250. Like,
Oof.
putting this motor back together, it cost me like $2,500. And it was $2,500 that we really couldn't just, like, spend. But the cool thing is that we had Bitcoin, and so as Bitcoin kind of appreciated through 2024, like, I would buy the parts that I needed, and I was able to fix the car. And we were able to prep for our baby, who was born in August. Like, we were able to prep the house for that and get the house ready. And we still have a significant savings, and we weren't set back any by all these purchases that we had to make. And so 2024 for her was this big eye-opening experience of, like, okay, maybe my husband does actually know what he's talking about. I've trusted him the whole way, but now it's time where she's starting to get a little curious. She asked me the other day about, like, this account on TikTok. It's like Bitcoin Facts Daily or something like that. She's like, "What
Okay.
is this?" And I'm like, I have no idea. She's like, "Well, I'm going to subscribe to it because I want to learn more about Bitcoin." So that's a long-winded way of saying, like, at the end of the day, when you're married and you're in Bitcoin, your significant other is a huge it has a huge role to play in your mental health and your projection going forward. So it's good to hear that, like, you have someone on your side that's, supporting you, rooting for you, and buying the dip when you're not. So
I got a real one. And I'm telling you, I honestly, I'll say this right now. She is more of a Bitcoiner than most of the people LARPing on Twitter,
oh
because
yeah.
she has used it exactly in the way that you're saying you utilized it. It's as a savings, right? And when a hard time come up and I need to make this, massive purchase of supplies for my business, she's pulled out, in profit UTXOs and spent them as her savings. That right there is the most perfect use case of it as money right now, right? Because we got a ways to go, but store of value, savings.
100%. 100%. That's where everybody should come into it as, it's a savings vehicle. But okay, so we spent 40 minutes and we haven't even talked about
Shut
mining
up.
yet.
No, we haven't.
So let's dive into this, man. Like, so you in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, you started working on Bitcoin mining to heat your home, correct?
Yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, 2022, right? 2020, we start looking at the fire and really start jumping into Bitcoin, and she's learning alongside me. And, it's now become our savings vehicle. But I still had this itch in the back of my head because I have to admit that during the 2017 bull run, I'm looking at Ethereum mining rigs like, look at that, 6 GPUs. It's a computer. I've been building computers since I was in high school in the 90s. Easy, right? Easy, I could build that. And it was like $5,000 to build one of those at the time, but they were making stupid money, right? Before proof of stake and all the other fun goodness. But I had never actually pulled that trigger. And I'm glad I didn't, because it allowed me to circle back around, learn more about the important asset, the there is no better one. And then it was Tech Engineer and Coin Heated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those two accounts, because this is about the same time when I deleted Facebook and then leaned into Twitter real hard to start seeking out the Bitcoin community, was around that time frame, 2021, 2020. And Tech Engineer, I saw in early 22, he posted a picture of the miner in his attic in a box with dampers to heat his home. And I'm like, this is, why did I not think of this? It's so obvious in hindsight. But yeah, I mean, they put off heat. They put off significant heat. So I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Fuck it. This is how I'm gonna get my feet wet on. And at that point in time, I had a real desire to interact with the protocol at a more root level, right? I'm learning so much about it. It's my savings vehicle now, but what else is there, right? As soon as you tackle the basics, there's so much more, as we both already said. The rabbit holes are endless. And mining was still in the back of my head. It was still an itch in the back of my head. Like, okay, I can turn electricity into money. That's amazing. Um, and when I saw Tech Engineer posting about that, and I came across Coin Heated's pool on YouTube, that happened around the same time. I was sold. So, that following winter, just a few months later, I got my first S9, plugged it in, took picture. Oh, I'm amazing. I'm going to heat my house with Bitcoin. I plugged in a single S9 to my return duct. But, that's the step, right? Everything's
Yeah.
small steps. That is the step. Now it's BitX, right? It's a different kind of step, and it's a whole different mindset as well, because you're going back to the roots of lottery. It's so, but we have these steps, and at that point in time, the S9 was the lowest barrier to entry to truly interact with mining. So, but it wasn't more than 2 months later, and I had a T19 and an S19 hooked up, and I'd returned the S9i that I bought because I couldn't get brains on it. And I do not like leaving things in stock configuration. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Fuck the
I've
stock
never
configs.
I've never in my life bought a thing and left it in its stock configuration. So that's like an inherent quality that I've carried into the space myself anyways from the beginning. That's not a Bitcoin created quality. That is what allowed me to experience so much more in the Bitcoin space, for sure. But yeah, now I returned that S9i and ended up Kaboom Racks was selling, tons of S9s at the time, and it was like $100 for an S9. I was like, I can buy, or it was 150 S9, 300 for 3 S9s. I'm like, I can do this. That's easy. That's affordable. I've wasted more money on stupider things.
Yeah, right.
And that was the entry, is just an S9, plugging it in, seeing that I could use the heat, and then it's not this crazy thing I'm doing. It's actually a logical thing that I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I think now that it's so much more popularized, heat reuse, and we still have a long way to go to get it out there, but it is now it's the catalyst now, I think, for a lot of miners, because it's the most sensible way to say, I need to pay to heat this house anyways. I understand this subsidy, so I can heat my house and get this subsidy. Easy.
Why not? It just makes absolutely like all the intuitive sense in the world. You know, it's a resistive heater that turns electricity into BTUs. It's the
No.
same thing as your electric furnace. You know, depending on the numbers and what you pay for your electric heat, like it's just, it makes intuitive sense. It makes complete sense to do that. And with all these innovations that are coming out, you know, today, when 2020 was happening, it wasn't as easy to just hop into it and set up all of these different systems. And I mean, you were getting a much more Bitcoin than you are now, but even still, like it wasn't as easy. Today, you're getting these systems that you've got the Loki board, you know, you've got the Nord board. These allow you to configure 220 volt miners down to 120 volts. So right then and there, like, yeah, there's a bit of a process that you have to do in order to learn how to configure that setup, but it's just knowledge that you stack on top of it. So, you know, getting this S9, buying the T19 and the S19s, and then installing those, and then figuring out how you can, you know, install the Loki rig. It's just an iterative process. And for people who are wanting to get into it, it's like my biggest piece of advice is to just get off zero. Just like when you were diving down the
Yes.
Bitcoin rabbit hole, get off zero, buy yourself, whether it's a BitAxe or an S9 or an S19, get yourself off zero and fuck around with it, you know, play with it just like you did. And everybody's scenario, everybody's life is a little bit different. You know, you have a different heating system than I have. So what's going to work for you is going to be completely different than what works for me. But the fact of the matter is that we're both here building something and trying. So, you know, with that said, you got this S9, you upgraded to an S19 pretty quickly. You know, you're building these stages of heat in your house. Where was that like huge catalyst to say, okay, I need to develop a product like the StealthMiner?
Yeah. So, well, okay. So the S9 is the easiest barrier to entry at the time, and still for a lot of people because of its 120 volt nature, right? You know, if I'm a renter in an apartment, I can't run 240. I can plug it up. If I don't have a 240 sub panel, I can plug it up. If I can't, you know, that's that. So, you know, jumping from that S9 to the T19 and the S19 that I bought required extra infrastructure. I had to run a 240 volt sub panel over to the duct return where I'm going to have these miners, you know, mounted and feeding air to the HVAC system. And I had just gotten all that accomplished that winter. And, you know, first winter of heating under my belt of the winter of 22. And then, yeah, Zach Bombs drops the fucking bomb on the world, right? Like that immediately just lit my fucking brain up. Like I was so stoked on that. I immediately just started playing with ideas. Okay, look, now I don't have to run 240 volt up to my attic because it's a big ass house and I need two stages of heat or two zones, I should say. And I was running S9s upstairs still because I had just moved them upstairs, running the more efficient machines on zone one downstairs. And this allowed me to say, oh, okay, we can get some current gen efficiencies on 120. And as soon as I got my hands on, you know, reached out to him, talked to him about it. And as soon as I got my hands on it, I was plugging in my T19 upstairs, you know, stock other than, you know, just a single board, but you know, ripping them 6K fans up in my office, making a racket. So, you know, that was just that's just the beginning because that's what ignited my imagination. Like, okay, cool. Now I'm not stuck in the confines of this stock enclosure. Now I'm not stuck in the confines of having 240 volt sub panel. And you can really just start playing with it. And he got Travis Bickle at the same time with his two plexiglass sheets. And I'm like, this motherfucker, that's cool. I like that.
Like
That's
you're onto
awesome.
something right here.
Yes. I was like, yes, because you know, I was thinking the same way, but I was executing it differently, right? Because everybody's got you know, their approach to something and their
Absolutely.
expertise that they're bringing into the problem to be solved. But I loved how he sandwiched that board, and I just immediately reached out and was talking to him and nerding out with him on it. and started building my own build out of an electrical box and went with the clear and close. Yeah, well, that's it right there. Kind of reborn. But I had two 6-inch, HVAC flanges on each side of this electrical box. I had a piece of plexi for the board underneath, and I had the Nord board that Zach also built at Pivotal Pleb, and had an AC Infinity fan. And I end up with like this 6-foot long Frankenstein contraption. And I immediately just started spinning on how can this be smaller? How can this be smaller? And I mean, that led into just strapping a radiator fan to the side of a hash board on my workbench, plugging it in and seeing what the fuck happened. Um, that was it right there. I was like, what if I put a big fan on the side of this thing and just suck it off? And the idea was to make a hash sandwich, right? 12-volt radiator fan on each side, and you got this dense package that's just sucking heat off of it. And then when I plugged it in, started testing it, I realized only the top sink needed the true extraction, right? The bottom sinks were there dissipating heat, and obviously if air's blowing over them, it's going to be more efficient. But the fact of the matter is I could plug this T19 board in, strap a 12-volt radiator fan on it, spin it up to 1,000 watts, and I'm not blowing anything up. And that was with brains, which is kind of amazing. I wasn't blowing anything up. But it just, so that's like, that's just the beginning of starting to tinker, because I can't help myself, right? Once I get ideas, I want to see them. If they haven't been built, I'll make them, whatever. But it truly was, it's been the community feedback that has driven all of this development of the StealthMiner, right? I was literally just tinkering, sharing what I was doing online, nerding out with other people doing the same thing, the other 2 or 3, right? Mm-hmm. and I was just doing my thing. But when I started playing Tetris with the mining components and was like, how small can we get this form factor? I don't want a 3-foot long enclosure blowing air over a board. What if we just, suck it off one side? And then, it's the community, right? It's the community that has always pushed what I'm doing here to the next level because of the support and the interest. And some of that support came early on. Marshall Long dropping in my DMs saying, this 120-volt thing you're doing, how do I get one? It's like, that's cool. You can plug that thing in anywhere and it's quiet. And, that's when it really like stepped up. It's like, okay, well, let's explore what is the best fan? What is the best configuration? But, that even wasn't after I had, I want to say, the perpendicular extraction with the 120 millimeter fans, like I do it, was driven by interest from someone on Twitter hitting on my DMs saying, I want one. Can you build me one? And this was before I had even actually built it and had a working prototype. It's just me. I took a picture of the fan sitting on top of the box and was like, will this work? And then someone was like, if you build me one, I'll pay for it. I don't care. Put it on eBay, sell it to me. And the short of that story is I said, yeah, sure. I mean, this guy wasn't paying me money to build a thing that I'm already building. I'm having fun doing this. Sure. I'll ship it out to you when I'm done. And, it was just the electrical box with brass standoffs at that point in time. And amazingly, that one made it all the way to Egypt without getting damaged, other than the brass standoffs breaking, which that guy was eventually able to replace. But he also was, not of the caliber of you and I, right? Not a tinkerer. He wanted a Bitcoin mining machine. He didn't want the process, the journey. Yeah. And he had some troubles early on. He's like, these fans are really loud. I'm like, well, you need 6,000 RPM fans on there, right? You need to cool this thing. There's just no way around it. And he put it on his porch and he had it running for like a day or so, but just wasn't happy with it and ended up returning it. And I was like, well, all right, why'd I do all that? There was a moment of, this sucks. never doing that again. Like, but like I said, that changed when Marshall jumped in and said, "That's pretty cool. Can you build me one?" That's when I got into, okay. I mean, yeah, let's try it again, but let's try it with Noctua fans this time. See if we can make it quiet. And that's when the form factor started really getting born, because he sent me a machine. I built two for him. He said, "You keep a board, build me two machines." Awesome, will do. And I think he still got one of them running. One of those brass standoffs, broken shipment as well. It's like not
Fucking
a
shipping,
shippable
man.
item.
No.
Not a shippable item. It was, and I told him straight up. I'm like, this is a cool concept, but it's not a shippable item.
Yeah.
And just a little bit of brainstorming. It was me just sitting in front of my workbench one night, and I was just stacking the components. I had a hash board, APW3 circuit board, 4 Noctua fans, and I just playing Tetris on my workbench. And I thought about, okay, well, first of all, I can't, these electrical enclosures using brass standoffs is not a producible item. It's a proof of concept at best, and does work, but you're not going to move it around anywhere. And that's when I really got into, well, I need to find a way to do this. Maybe I can print it. And that's when I started stacking things and seeing how small of a form factor can I get, because I have access to a 300 millimeter volume printer at work and some CAD software that I can learn, and that I had been briefly self-teaching. We're all autodidact or whatever it is in the
Yeah.
Bitcoin community, I'm sure, right? We're all self-taught. That's why we're here. It's how we discovered this before everyone else, I think. But that's when I really started prototyping the shape of what you see now, and the form factor of the 3 sections. And that's when it truly, like, the form factor we all see now truly, like, started coming about. And it was a lot of, let me change this amount of millimeter adjustment on the back of the board. Let me put the fans up a little bit more. Like, a lot of trial and error prototyping, because I'm not an engineer with a fancy degree or thermodynamic simulation software. I'm literally just drawing this thing in CAD, printing them, and trying it out. And so a lot of personal time and R&D, and to go into getting, like, the right balance of Noctuas being able to cool this thing, but it not being too loud because they're sitting too close to the heat sink, because it's when you split air that it makes noise, right?
Right.
When you're just moving a bunch of air, it can move silently. But as soon as you start moving it through a grate, through a heat sink, through fans, through another grate, when you're splitting it, that's when you get that chop. That's when you get that noise. So, it ultimately came down to, the StealthMiner is an underclocked device, but it's another case of incentives aligning, I think, because someone who's going to be seeking out something like this, if they're not doing the DIY version, they want to buy one fully assembled, they probably are coming in with minimal knowledge. They just saw this cool miner. It's within reach. Let me buy it. Let me try it. This is my barrier to entry, maybe. But got where I was just going with that. But you don't want that. That person's not necessarily going to be knowledgeable, right? To be able to take something apart, troubleshoot it, whatnot. So you got to make it so that they can just plug it in and it goes. And with that, there's other considerations, right? They're going to be plugging this into a living room, probably, where a load already exists on what is most likely a 15 amp circuit, not a 20 amp circuit, right? So downclocking it not only allows you to go quieter with the 3000 RPM fan, it also aligns with, people plugging these into a standard load at 120 outlet, assume a standard load on it. And, it ends up operating nominally in the 650 to 800 watt range.
Yeah.
However, the Noctuas can handle up to like 980 watt. I did that with a modified ABW12 and started really kicking it up. Because in the StealthMiner, right, you're getting a static PSU. You're getting a static 12.5 volt. And at a certain frequency, clocking those chips, you're going to start getting faults because they don't have enough voltage. So when I hooked it up to the APW12, I actually tested in Noctuas and was able to get damn near 1,000 watts of cooling out of them, which is pretty damn impressive. They still stack up. They're the best. They're the best fan under 3K RPM for sure.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the Noctua fans, man. No, this whole the whole thing, the word that comes to mind, and we kind of talked about this yesterday when we were talking offline, is iteration. You might not be an engineer, but you said it very well. You're an autodidact. We all really are when we're the people in this community.
Yeah.
We kind of get this idea in our head. We're like, oh man, I wonder if I could do that. And then you're like, well, let's just try it. Let's just give it a shot. And
Yes.
so you keep playing around with it. And maybe, at the end of the day, maybe, this person on X kind of kicked the fire underneath you and lit you up. It was like, hey, build this thing for me. And it got your wheels spinning a little bit more. But I think ultimately you would have come to this point anyways, because you are trying to iterate and make this thing for yourself and see how well it works. Obviously, it might not have come with so much headache of trying to ship out all these devices and having them break and getting them sent back and dealing with the returns and reiterating. Like, I personally, I don't like dealing with normal people, especially people who don't understand what it is that they're getting into. So being able to send something to someone who's like, yeah, I just need you to help me build this, put it together. I can troubleshoot it. That's the kind of person I want to work with. It's like, yeah, well, you need this, and this, put it together and then put some aftermarket firmware on it and you'll be good to go. Oh, it doesn't work. Well, try this or try that. It's a whole different beast than this thing doesn't work. I don't know what to do. I'm sending it back. It's a whole different beast.
Right. Yeah. Actually, and there's been a lot of it's been a constant iteration, but I think that's the trick. That is, iteration is the trick. Perseverance is the trick. Do the next step. That didn't work. What else does? Try something different. Right. It's just, I 100% agree with that. But yeah, and it is it's iteration that drove every next step of this design too, for sure, because early on, tried to get 5 units out to Altair early on. Was talking to them. He's like, "This is a cool design. I'll sell them." And I put together the first batch of 5, and shipped them to him. And 4 of them were just absolutely destroyed during transit. Absolutely destroyed, and that's because I didn't have enough bracing in the bottom chamber. The hash board wasn't locked in as tight as it could be, so it was jiggling around, and chips were breaking off on the J Pro Plus board because it's got the individual sinks, not the big chonker boy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. So there have been multiple steps of iteration here, and it's not done yet. That's the beauty of it. There's so much more cool shit to build. Like, there's more stuff constantly coming out on the market. And I know you're ripping with Ryan soon, or already have, but right, Cryobite just showed up on the fucking block last month,
Dude.
with this slick water block. It's got my wheels spinning again.
Dude, yeah, we had that conversation this morning. I wanted to ask you about that. Like, with this new hybrid cooling block that's coming out, like, what are your intentions? Like, what do you want to build with this, man? Because I know what I want to build.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited to get my hands on one of these fucking things, dude.
This is my favorite part, right? Because it's one product, but we all have a different idea of execution.
Man,
we all
exactly.
have something else to bring to the table. We all have a different perspective or attack vector. For me, right, let's be real. I have a full-time W-2, and I'm building a bus on the side. My time is just as fucking scarce as this network is these days, and I'm perpetually exhausted, but it's all just amazing. Yeah. But with that being said, right, I can't truly warranty completely built assembled units. And I'm not equipped as one person to help everyone troubleshoot any issues or technical. I can't play tech support for everyone if I'm assembling these things and send them out. So, my pivot in 25, well, it's not necessarily a pivot, but it's another iteration, right?
Yeah.
I need to go metal. right? I need to go metal with the enclosure. Something I've been thinking about for a while because you have other metal enclosures like mine for heat has
Yes.
that slick
Yes, dude. I
aluminum
saw that
extrude. It's
today.
so nice.
Oh man, it's so
Oh,
great.
let me tease something. Let me tease
Do it.
something.
Do it.
I haven't shown this yet. But what happens when you take a mine for heat enclosure and punch holes in the side? I don't know yet,
Oh,
but we're
I
gonna
don't know,
find out,
but we're
right?
gonna find out. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Right. It's just so much cool shit to play with. And then you got Altair, right?
Yes.
Fucking dropped the metal bit chimney on the market and did a beautiful redesign iteration, right? A
Yes.
beautiful iteration of his prototype into a a full because right, plastic's great for rapid prototyping, but
Yeah.
these are high powered electronics for creating heat. It's not the best medium long term. And I mean, these prints are problematic. I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole full of variables that can just consume your time. Um, so yeah, my goal in 2025, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I don't, but I'm going to port this design to metal, and a hybrid cooling block may be the missing piece I needed for that. That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I
Dude.
got some fun ideas,
Dude.
and you know, if anybody watches that YouTube video, I'll put this out there because this is my train of thought right now. So early in, we're not getting blocks for another 8 weeks, right? We're all waiting for the batch, but when I watched the YouTube video of him displaying it, I said that looks like two 360 millimeter radiators. Okay, 720 divided by 3, 240. That's ideal. That's a stock $20 cooler on Amazon for
Yeah.
PCs. Single board, right?
Yep.
240 area volume should handle a single board fine if he's there overclocking three of them on, 720. Yeah. So that's where my thought process is going right now. Um, but if I just, what happens when you just slap a block in the StealthMiner form factor, right? The perpendicular extraction. What happens if I strap a block to that and put just, a radiator in between my fans and top lid? It's got to make a taller hat for the fucker. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'll
We
tell
will
you what.
see.
I'll tell you what happens. Your stealth miner becomes a silent miner. Has no noise because they're spinning at like 3,000 RPMs, not
Yeah.
making any noise at all. And then you have the added ability to put ports on that thing and heat shit. Like you can do more
Right.
than just heat air.
Yeah, it
So
unlocks a whole other world when you get into to immersion and water blocks because you have that liquid to liquid transfer you can do, which is amazing, right? That unlocks. I don't know if so the bus, right? You know, I'm taking a miner on the road. That's why I'm going crazy with the solar and diving down Dirty's direct DC business because it's just perfect for it. But yeah, what if I'm heating the water on the bus with a single board
yeah,
instead of a propane system? I don't know. I got to think more on that, right? Because as it is on the bus, the thought process is that Bitcoin mining heat honestly will be the tertiary option
yeah,
because the propane is more practical. Two 20-gallon tanks on a bus, that's going to run your on-demand hot water heater, a small propane heater if you want it. And I'm not even going to run a propane heater. I'm going to put a diesel heater in the defrost manifold because I ripped out all that stock enclosure. So diesel heater primary, wood stove secondary. Bitcoin mining heat on the bus is actually going to be a tertiary option, which makes sense because you only have so much storage, so much sunlight, right? But it's
yeah,
there. But what if I have a 10-gallon tank and I'm preheating water?
yeah. It makes
I don't
sense.
know, dude. There's so many things
I
to like create and build. We need more you and I's out here just
there's not
hacking
enough
at shit.
there's not enough time in the day. You kind of you said it perfectly. You have a 9 to 5 job and your time is stretched so damn thin, dude. I have a 9 to 5 job plus a 5 to 12 p.m. job plus I manage a park plus I do this you know what I mean? I'm doing so much
Yeah.
shit, like, but I tell you what, when I get that block in, dude, I'm gonna build something, and I'm gonna start playing around with radiant heat. Like I want
That's
to build
amazing.
a
Yes.
radiant heat system in my house, and maybe I won't go full board because I don't know how long I'm gonna live in this place. I don't plan on living here. Like, it's not my forever home. I don't
I
want
get
to
that
like
vibe.
I don't want to tear it up and like be like to the new owners, yeah, by the way, like the only heat in this house is a Bitcoin miner. And they're like,
Right? Yeah,
what's a
exactly.
Bitcoin miner? Like, what do you
So,
mean?
right.
So I
If you're
definitely want
hot,
to
open
like,
a window. Unless you have a thermal headset. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
unless you have
exactly.
some kind of automated.
Yeah, so we're gonna take it easy. Like, my intention is to like start prototyping and build some stuff that could be just like forgotten about. But when we move into our new home, and I'm planning on looking at new homes in probably 28. So when we start looking at that place, like, I want to have all of this like mental understanding of Bitcoin, radiant heat, flooring systems. Are you familiar with Cade Peterson?
I'm not that name specifically, but
Soft
I
Warm
think I.
LLC.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the
Yes.
sidewalk that dumps heat through the
Yes.
summer?
Yes. Yes.
How are you dumping heat through a sidewalk in the summer? That's still like itching me. That's itching
Okay.
my
So
brain.
so check it out. From what I understand, concrete absorbs heat. It absorbs the
It is
temperature. Okay.
porous.
It's
Yeah.
porous. And at night, it drops, the temperature drops. So at night that concrete gets cold, and throughout the day, like the sunlight as it's beating down, unless it's directly beating on your concrete, it's not heating up. It's kind of like when the sun is hitting the sand and you dig, like 6 inches under the sand, that sand
Right.
underneath
It's
is
cool.
cold. It's
Yeah.
just like that, man. So like that concrete underneath is colder. So it's basically just sucking the heat out of it. But what blew my mind was, like, bro is over there heating up sidewalks, building snow melt systems. It's
Yeah.
melting
Yep.
snow. You
Right.
you ain't
Okay.
like,
Yes.
bro.
That's right. So okay, and that's the obvious part to me, right? When I saw that he was putting in the hydronic heat, he posted the first pictures of I love cable management and beautifully,
Oh
aligned
yeah.
things. So when he was posting those pictures, I'm like, that's fucking awesome because you can melt the snow in the winter. Beautiful. The only thing I thought of at that moment in time. But when I saw him later post that in the middle of summer it was dumping heat for him, my mind's
Genius.
still blown about that, honestly.
Genius.
It still
Dude.
is.
And this just goes to show the amount of the crazy psychopathic engineering, like
Yes.
autodidactic people who are building and iterating in Bitcoin. Bro, I cannot wait to see what comes of this cryo block. Dude, I am so fucking stoked to see all these people building with the cryo block and doing really cool pleb style shit, man. Like, we have no idea where the space is moving in 5-10 years. It's going to be insane.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's the even cooler part, right? Like we can't even think of use cases that are going to happen.
No.
That no one's thought of them yet. That's it fucking blows my mind
It's
every
wild.
day, dude. Blows my
Absolutely.
mind every
There's
day.
not enough time in the day for us to do this shit. That's for sure. That's for
There's
sure.
not.
So, hey, I we're starting to close up on this episode. I could sit here and I could just bullshit with you about this for
For
hours.
sure. Yeah,
And
no, yeah.
honestly,
We could do a Joe Rogan 3 hour. I don't give a
for
fuck. Let's
sure, right? Like, I don't have time for that right now, but we
Yeah, no, I
totally
heard
could.
that. We just
I
got over
will
that.
say, I will say that, in 8 weeks, when we get our hands on these cryo blocks, we're gonna have to, just brainstorm some of these ideas together and just kind
For
of,
sure.
build some cool shit. In closing though, I got a couple of philosophical questions for you. We kind of alluded to it, but where do you think the future of Bitcoin mining is headed? Did I lose you? All right. Hold on, guys. All right, we had technical difficulties, but we're back. So I want to ask you some philosophical questions. We alluded to it a little bit before. Where do you think the future of Bitcoin mining is headed?
um, that's a good one. So everyone's gonna mine, I think. Um, Pubcos, plebs, fucking telecom companies that have extra resources. Oh wait, that's already happening now, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Dude, seriously though, I think the future of Bitcoin mining is going to present so many use cases that we haven't even thought of yet. I mean, and if you want to, if you want, you can always dive down the bit power rabbit hole. That's a whole nother thing. Um, but I honestly think everyone's going to be mining, and I think one of the primary use cases is going to be heat reuse for sure, right? Like it's such a simple concept, you know, heat your
Simple.
home, but also get that subsidy.
Yeah, it's simple yet powerful, you know, like
Right.
that right there is it's something that for me it gets my heart pounding when I start thinking about the implications for the future of the world in general, thinking
Yeah.
about, man, people are going to be mining Bitcoin for heat, and they're not even going to know what's happening, you know,
Well, you
as
know what? They may not even know they have an ASIC chip in whatever device they're running, right? The
exactly.
BitX is showing that right now. You can power a single chip. A great barrier entry, by the way, because you do require technical, you learn frequencies and everything when you're doing it. From what I see so far, right? The concept is great. I love what they're doing over there, and it's the multi-chip projects that have me like, you know, really interested about that. But I honestly think ASICs are gonna, they might be coming up in regular appliances, right? You may just be throwing, you know, trying to find a nonce with your fucking refrigerator. Who knows? But here's the real kicker, right? If you ask me about where the future of Bitcoin mining is going, um, I constantly go, it's energy, right? Like the day that energy trade or that Bitcoin BTC on the network becomes a unit of account for energy trade, fucking checkmate, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
and you got Exxon, you got these energy producers. I mean, you got this network bootstrapping itself to the energy producers of the world right now.
Yeah.
So it's already probably game set match, but I just can't wait until I see that it becomes a unit of account for energy trade, because that's when it is the reserve, right? That's when hyper Bitcoinization happens, I think. But who the fuck knows, right? Nobody
Who
can predict
knows?
the future,
We can't. If we could, dude, we'd be millionaires. That's for damn
right?
sure.
I'm still
But
hoping we get a bear market in 2026 so that I can,
uh,
sell my house coming out of it,
oh man, dude, that'd be the
right?
most beautiful thing. I just sold
Yes,
my house for 1.5, spent 3/4 of that on Bitcoin at the bottom, and
yes,
watched it just triple in value over the course of 4
yeah.
years. Dude, that would set you guys up. You'd be driving around in that schoolie for fucking 25 years, man. Die in that schoolie.
I tell you, I need to get my ducks in a row and get some kits and metal. Yeah, I need to make this thing metal so that I can just give kits to the world because I'm not going to be manufacturing these things from a bus, right? And
No, hell no.
that's very much happening, because when I have a plan, or should I say, when we have a plan, because she's just as, fucking forward moving as I am, right?
Oh yeah.
And as stubborn when she gets an idea that needs to be executed. Yeah, so
Match made
it's
in heaven right there.
it's fucking happening, right? We're gonna move into a bus. We're gonna go on at least 3 to 5 year sabbatical and mine Bitcoin along. I'm taking a machine with me.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm
So
excited
that's
to
the
watch this
future of
journey.
Bitcoin mining for me. I'm a
There you
fucking
go.
photon farmer now, right?
I'm a photon. I'm gonna be mining with solar arrays on my bus.
Goddamn
That's
right.
awesome.
I'm shoving 4.2 kilowatt on that thing, and
Oh hell yeah.
I still don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna.
You'll figure it out. There's plenty of
Yeah, well,
surface area on that bus. You got it.
yeah. We're doing sliding systems. I'm gonna have an awning come out, but the real challenge is, do I have enough money to make one articulate up 60 degrees?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. See,
right. We'll
that's
find
a
out.
world I don't even understand. But good luck
I'm
to
having so
you.
much fun diving down the solar power generation rabbit hole. Not even just the direct DC stuff and combining two areas of technical expertise, but it's a whole new realm of exploration and learning. And it's got me fired up. It's got me so fucking hyped.
Awesome, dude. That's the best thing about Bitcoin and mining is just there's, like we said before, there's so many ways that you can go about it. And if you're an autodidact, if you love to learn things, you're gonna learn some shit just fucking tinkering around, playing with it. I think I lost you again. Okay, we're gonna pause one more time. All right, we had some more technical difficulties. We don't care. We're gonna finish this out. We've got like 3 more minutes. I got one more question for you, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
Mark, what does Bitcoin mean to you, brother?
Oh, okay. So most importantly, it really simply is sound money, right? It's an opportunity for us not to have our time and life thefted away from us by our government at every monetary unit they expand into the universe. Um, you know, that's what it is. Bitcoin's a wrecking ball, right? I'm here to build upon the ashes of the fiat system it tears down. However, it does it. That's cool. But if we want to, if I want to label it something, it's a wrecking ball because it breaks models to price models or mining models. Like it's an absolute wrecking ball, and I'm here for it, and I'm here to build on top of the ashes of the bullshit it tears down.
Hell yeah, brother. 100%. I'm with you. I haven't heard it put that way, but it is. It's a fucking wrecking ball. It's changing things. It's tearing down the old and building up the new, and we're getting rid of this fiat mind virus, this garbage in,
Yes.
garbage out kind of scenario. Like we're only getting better. We're only iterating and doing more and becoming the best version of ourselves while we do it, because all of the incentives are aligning. And not only that, but we're stacking on top of this idea of like, hey, we know what we truly want in our own personal lives. We're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. We're not playing this fiat rat race game anymore. We know what we want. We know what we need to do. And we're just going to keep iterating until we get to the life that we want to live. And you're doing it right now with your schoolie, getting
Yeah.
out of the 9 to 5. Like I'm over here doing it with my wife and child, like building the life that I want to live and that I want to lead. And, at the end of the day, like wherever we end up, it's where we're meant to be. That's all I can say.
Yeah. No, I feel that vibe 100%.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, hey, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. Just
Dude, I appreciate you having me. It's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy this, man. It's fun. We're Bitcoiners. We're talking about the things that we love. You know what I
Right?
mean? Like, how can it
Yeah.
not be fun? This is
I
the
was all
Joe
nervous
Rogan.
and shit. Now I can talk for 5 fucking hours.
You're like, does it have to be over?
Right.
So real quick, just tell people, how they can find you. I know that you don't have any stealth miners for sale right now, but you are selling the CAD designs and, helping people design it themselves. So tell people where they can find you, how they can get in connect.
Sure. Yeah. So, SatstackinPleb simply on X. But for those who are interested in the schoolie build, the proof of work for that is happening over on the TikTok side because that's the video platform. And I'm trying to develop, a sense of, I'm trying to find that community, right? I found the Bitcoin community here. So the TikTok is Diogenes_schoolie. And, the Diogenes, if you don't know who that is, look it up because every Bitcoiner is a cynic in my eyes.
Hell yeah. Well,
But yeah, X, SatstackinPleb, TikTok, Diogenes_schoolie, and, structure.io, StealthMiner.io. That those will both land you on the website I've created, which is just yet another iteration, right? I didn't plan on setting up companies and selling these things, but like the interest, you guys, the community has driven me with your interest. And I am still building some machines for sure. It's just I'm cramming it in when I can while maintaining a full-time job and building a school bus and diving down the solar rabbit hole so much. But yeah, that's where they can find me if they're interested.
Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here. I'll put all that in the show notes so they can find you. Nah, man, this was a great episode. This was a lot of fun, a great conversation. And you, my friend, are a testament to what can happen when you just don't stop iterating. You just don't stop. You have a dream, you have a vision, you have a purpose, and you just keep going. So I'm excited to see where you go.
Yeah, absolutely. If whoever's watching this, right, if there is any type of barrier to you diving down anything you want to do, not even just Bitcoin, just take the first step, right? It's just take it. Just take a step, whatever it is. Take a step, and then if you hit a wall, do what we've been talking about. Iterate. Go back to the drawing board. Try it again. Approach it from a different angle. But it's so important to take the first step, but to also continuing to take every next step. You know.
Mm-hmm. And I would also add to that and say, find the community. You know, if you're watching this, you probably have already found the community, but reach out. There are so many people in the community, like Mark, like myself, like Dirt, like Antoine, like Zach, like, you know, Cade, who are willing to talk to you about what they're building and willing to walk you through it yourself. And they're not asking for anything other than you just to listen and ask questions. So, you know, like Mark said, take the first step, get off zero, just, you know, take a shot, keep trying, keep iterating, don't stop iterating. So awesome. Dude, well, again, thank you so much for being here. If you guys liked this episode, if you enjoyed this content, please like, follow, subscribe, share it out for more.
Ford called it.
Dude. 100%, man. 100%. Anyways, guys, this has been the Build a Mind podcast. I'm your host, Trevor. This was my guest, Mark, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Later.
Please note, the Build a Mind podcast provides information for general educational purposes only. This information should not be construed as legal, financial, or investment advice. We do not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information presented, and we encourage you to consult with a professional advisor, legal advisor, and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The Build a Mind podcast and its affiliates are not responsible for any losses incurred as a result of using the information provided.